Welcome back to the FTN NFL Draft Team Preview Series. I'm your host, Mike Randle. You can follow me on Twitter at RandleRand, and we continue to churn out the content here to give you a preview of each and every one of the 32 NFL teams. Today, we go to San Francisco to talk about the San Francisco 49ers, one of the most successful teams over the last few years, looking to get that Super Bowl title. And I talked to him last summer. He's the only person to talk to here for the Niners, Brian Peacock. Follow him on Twitter at BD Peacock. He's the host of Locked On 49ers. Came by for a few minutes here to give us some fascinating information. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
Doing great, Mike. Yeah, glad to be on with you again and talk about these San Francisco 49ers. Never a dull moment with the 49ers.
There certainly isn't. And we'll get to quarterback in a minute. But, of course, the Niners, one of the most successful teams here in the NFL, looking to get that Super Bowl title. Coaching changes, Brian. Let's start with that. I think you have a new guy coming in Klint Kubiak.
Yeah, Klint Kubiak. It's really hard to know exactly what responsibilities coaches have under Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan is a known control freak, and he's the play caller and it's his offense. And but he trusts the Kubiak family. His dad coached with Klint's dad. So, this is a family affair here with the Shanahans and the Kubiaks, and he joins his brother Clay Kubiak now, who's the assistant quarterbacks coach as well on the San Francisco 49ers staff, and I think potentially a high riser in the coaching ranks with the quarterbacks coach of Brian Griese, who did a fantastic job last year with the rookie quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, coming out of nowhere. Jimmy Garoppolo was playing some pretty good ball too before, some of his best ball actually, before he went down with an injury. So interesting group of coaches for the 49ers. And one thing we've seen with Kyle Shanahan might be his best superpower as a head coach in the NFL is his ability to hire, identify, and develop coaches underneath him. And as witnessed by seeing multiple coaches being hired away for other jobs and promotions and even head coaches around the league.
Well, you said Mr. Irrelevant, who was very relevant here, Brock Purdy. So, of course, let's get the key question here. Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously on his way out. Trey Lance, sort it out for me. Who's going to be starting week one, where we are right now with the signal caller for San Francisco?
It's hard to say that Brock Purdy would be starting week one because he just had his surgery and everything went successful. It looks like he's getting the internal brace, UCL, elbow ligament surgery, which is about a 6-month time frame. And that puts us right at opening day, kickoff weekend for the NFL, 6 months out from that surgery. So we'll see how it goes. Can it be a little bit less than 6 months? Can he throw enough? Because you're supposed to be able to start throwing, and not many, this is more of a baseball injury. Not many football players have these types of surgeries. It's not Tommy John, but it's a different surgery that's less invasive than the Tommy John. It's not complete reconstruction, but a repair of that elbow ligament. And very few quarterbacks, very few NFL players have had this surgery. So we don't really know exactly what the timeline is going to be. He's supposed to be able to start throwing in 3 months though. So the question is, between that 3-month and 6-month time span, is he able to participate, or is he just throwing on the side? Can he practice a little bit, maybe non-contact? So that'll be key in how much of training camp he's able to be involved with. And maybe even if it's a little shorter than 6 months, can he get in one preseason game? Because I can't imagine that Kyle Shanahan, unless it's a total disaster at quarterback with Trey Lance throughout camp, that he would just turn to Brock Purdy after having no practice and not being cleared until right before week one. And look, I still think the 49ers were ready to go with Trey Lance last year as the starting quarterback, and they did until he got hurt. So I don't know how anything could have really changed from that point just because of an injury. So this is going to be fascinating, and it's going to be all Trey Lance, and it's going to be a huge opportunity for him to have a great spring, a great training camp, and prove that he's ready to start the season as the starter. And if he plays well, it'll be hard for Kyle Shanahan to make a change.
Well, that's the key question here, Brian. So if Purdy does not get hurt, you're saying it still would have been Trey Lance no matter what, because there were these rumors on social media. Did Purdy do enough now to start the season? If he didn't get hurt, what do you think would have happened?
If Purdy did not get hurt, I think the 49ers would be listening to offers for Trey Lance right now this offseason. I think it would have been Purdy's job. Multiple people have talked about it. You can just tell by the way the team has talked about Purdy and how good he played. And he won the locker room, not necessarily from a personality standpoint, a leadership standpoint, is this, nobody likes Trey Lance or anything like that, but just his play on the field spoke volumes, and he played so well. And his 7 games ending the season as a starting quarterback for the 49ers, I think, was the best quarterback play we've seen for Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. Everything was just humming with that offense. And I think it was George Kittle who said basically it's Purdy's job to lose, but the injury is enough to open a little window for Trey Lance to come back. And Trey Lance is the more physically talented player. And if Trey Lance can beat out Brock Purdy, that makes the 49ers better. So the 49ers have to give Trey Lance a shot. And even if it was Purdy getting first team reps or the first reps, I think it would have been still close to 50-50 throughout training camp this year, giving Trey Lance an opportunity to compete with Brock Purdy. But Brock Purdy probably would have come in as the 1A at least if he didn't get hurt. And possibly we would see someone like D'Amico Ryans or Rand Carthon with the Titans and another team maybe come calling for Trey Lance. And they still might come calling for Trey Lance this offseason because a veteran quarterback is still needed because the 49ers need multiple arms to get through training camp, even if Brock Purdy is back in that 6-month window.
Let's talk about free agency now. Both sides of the ball. Niners solid, both offense, defense, efficiency is there. Of course, the great defense is especially great. What do you think here with free agency, additions, subtractions? What are you hearing? What do you think they're going here in free agency?
It's going to be tough. The 49ers don't have a lot of cap space. They've got to do a new mega contract for Nick Bosa, who's going to get paid this offseason at some point. The biggest contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history. So that's going to happen. And it's going to be a whole lot of money. It's going to be over $150 million total. It's going to be over $30 million per year. So they can't spend a lot on any more superstar players. I don't think they can bring in really any high-priced free agents from the outside, and they're going to have to fight hard for the free agents they have in-house. I think the most likely to walk big money is Mike McGlinchey, and I think he's just going to make too much money because starting caliber offensive tackles make a lot of money, and every team, it seems like, needs one. So the 49ers aren't going to be able to compete with, the Chicago Bears and, all these teams that need starting caliber tackles in the NFL. So I think Mike McGlinchey might get even a surprising number that the 49ers just aren't going to be able to match, and they're going to have to go in-house and hope that Colton McKivitz, who they just signed to a 2-year deal as a restricted free agent, can be up to the task. Some competition there with Daniel Brunskill, maybe the last year's rookie right guard could kick out the tackle and compete there in Spencer Burford. And they've got 3 compensatory picks at the end of the 3rd round that they'll no doubt add some more competition to the offensive line there as well. So if I had to guess, McGlinchey walks and they re-sign starting center from last year, Jake Brendel, who's going to come back on a much friendlier deal. Then on the defensive side of the ball, probably one of Samson Ebukam, edge rusher, or Charles Omenihu walks, and the other one the 49ers keep. I would guess the 49ers are able to bring back Charles Omenihu, a little more flexible, edge, can rush from the inside, and Samson Ebukam walks in free agency.
Great. Last question. We'll get you out of here, Brian. Amazing content as always. Let's talk about the draft because it's interesting. No 1st or 2nd round picks here for San Francisco. But if you look at their number, they actually have, I believe, 10, maybe 11 picks here. A lot of picks in the later rounds. Do you see them focusing on maybe moving up? Do you see them just trying to fill needs here? No early picks, but a real solid core. So is it supplemental picks for the Niners in the draft, or what are you hearing?
Yeah, it's all compensatory picks at the end of the 3rd round, 99, 101, and 102. Then no 4th rounder. That was part of the reason the 49ers don't have these picks is because it's the last 1st rounder for Trey Lance. They don't have a 2nd, 3rd, their own 2nd, 3rd, 4th this year, 5th next year for the Christian McCaffrey trade. So I think the fact that they're bunched up in the draft too, they got 3 thirds, then they got 3 fifths, and then they got 4 sevenths. 3 7ths and a 6th. I don't know, whatever. So they got 11 total picks, 7 compensatory selections. So I would imagine that they try to move up and back in a way that they, maybe make a pick earlier in the 3rd round, especially if you're trying to find someone like an offensive tackle. You're not going to sit there and let an offensive tackle fall to you at 99. You don't find guys that can start in the NFL at offensive tackle, especially early in a career at pick 99. So they might look small school guys that didn't have great competition, but meet a height, weight, speed standard, or they might have to find some dirty prospects that did play, a high level of competition and were really productive in college, but maybe don't fit the height, weight, speed standard of things. If they're looking for, starters at those impact positions, cornerback and edge and defensive tackle and offensive tackle especially. So I would guess that they would probably move up in the 3rd round a little bit to secure one of the players that they like on the board that's fallen down outside of the top 75 picks or so and into the 3rd round a little bit, and then maybe maneuver either back from one of those 3rds or up from the 5th into the 4th round range too, just so they're not clumped up with 3 picks here and 3 picks there, and kind of maneuver around the board and make the board work for them a little bit. But it's going to be important for them to find depth this year. But man, the 49ers have been among the best and really historically great at finding mid-round draft picks that are starters, contributors, and even superstar players. And even the 5th round and beyond, we saw it with Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy last year, George Kittle and Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. They've been amazing. So it's probably one of the better teams to not have early picks and have those mid-round selections, they've been really able to make good on those. And so let's see if the 49ers can do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at San Francisco, they always find those diamonds in the rough. Last 4 seasons, Brian, 13-3, 6-10, 10-7, 13-4. So certainly a team that is looking for the Super Bowl here. Thank you so much for a few minutes, Brian. Great insight. Love to connect with you as you get closer to the NFL draft. Still a ton of moving parts here, but certainly we realize the 49ers are going to be at the top again in 2023. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure to follow Brian here at BD Peacock on Twitter, host of Locked On 49ers. Thanks, Brian.